Brenda Torazzi owns a series of lifestyle businesses that, in between breakdowns, have provided him and his family a life many of us would kill for.
A lifestyle business for me is a business where it supports what I want to do as opposed to it dragging me in and dictating to me what it needs me to do.
It's the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing Show, thanks to American Express.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of marketing mischief. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, you are a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. And it absolutely does deserve to be that. Big show today. We are going to meet lifestyle entrepreneur Brenda Torazzi, whose feast or famine approach to business enables him to lead a life of freedom and joy, with the odd breakdown in between, which is kind of interesting. US listener Bob Wheeler shares his marketing secrets, and this week's jingle of the week, I think, will make you nauseous. It definitely made me nauseous. Far too sickly sweet, if you know what I mean. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. And by stuck right in, let's meet today's guest. Brenda Torazzi is a lifestyle entrepreneur owning a number of businesses that, whilst not providing 100% passive income, that would be nice, wouldn't it? He certainly has placed himself in a position where he can work on them and not in them, which is kind of where we all want to be, right? Plus, he travels the world with his family a few months every year. The businesses cover a few different industries, including OH&S, weddings, holiday rentals, and a bit more. But it hasn't all been a bed of roses for young Brendan. Oh, no, it hasn't, as you're about to find out. I started off by asking him to define a lifestyle business.
A lifestyle business for me is a business where it supports what I want to do as opposed to it dragging me in and dictating to me what it needs me to do, if that makes sense.
Nice. You're living the dream.
Well, it's taken probably 25 years, but yeah, possibly. And it's a work in progress still.
When you say it's taken 25 years, it's like all things, you know, it takes you 25 years to be an overnight success. But how long you been in business all up?
Well, when I was a teenager, I was playing in bands, and I didn't have much musical talent, but I had a lot of talent getting gigs and promoting events and all that sort of thing. So that was sort of when I started, like, tinkering around with businesses, but probably the first serious business was straight out of uni. I fell into running a translation agency, starting and running a translation agency.
What was that about? Simply like into what language? From what to what?
Well, look, I used to catch a bus home from uni, and this girl had this idea of starting a Japanese sign business. And I thought, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah. There was a time in Sydney when there was a lot of Japanese tourists in the early 90s. And so I used to travel a lot, and I came back and I thought, what am I going to do now? I'll finish uni, and I thought, I think I'll start this Japanese sign business as a way of making a bit of money before I go overseas again.
So getting back to the lifestyle business thing then. So a lifestyle business for you is a business that doesn't own you, you own it. And it sounds just too good to be true. Tell me about, how many lifestyle businesses have you had in your life so far?
Well, look, I haven't always been able to run them as a lifestyle. Like, for example, when I was running the translation business, I was like stressed out of my brain. I burnt out several times, and it really owned me. So I think it was going through those processes of owning businesses where they kind of dictated to me, and, I was working around the clock. and all of those types of things that sort of have led me to this point in recent years where I've had enough of doing that, and I've switched things around to the way I want to run them. But to answer your question, like I've done so many startups, I'm probably onto my 5th or 6th startup of businesses now. So that's kind of what I love doing. I love creating stuff.
Just tell me about that moment in your translation business where you were run ragged. Was that a kind of pivotal moment for you where you sort of said to yourself, if I'm going to be in business and I'm going to be a business owner, then this is not how it's going to be?
Oh, look, I think I won this big contract with Hewlett-Packard to translate one of their calculator manuals into like 15 different languages, and I was working around the clock, and it was hugely deadline driven, and I was so stressed because I was working around the clock, and it was only really me and all these subcontractors.
Yeah.
And I basically almost drove myself into the ground. Like,
Brendan, I can assure you that it wasn't the stress of the deadline for that; it was the boredom of the job that would have sent you.
Mate, yeah.
You had to translate a calculator manual into 15 different languages. You are killing me.
I tell you what, that translation business, it was so glamorous.
Yeah, living the life.
So, yeah. So
wow.
It was kind of like experiences like that where you had these incredibly stressful moments, and I had to go off and see therapists because I couldn't cope, and and it probably didn't help that I was in my 20s and out partying every weekend. That probably compounded things as well. But I think it's just been maturity, really, like years and years of running businesses, or really them running me, that it's led me to this point where, I don't want to be operational in businesses anymore because it's kind of boring.
I really want to talk about the lifestyle businesses you've got now, but you have had, from talking to you previously, it was the RTO, the Registered Training Organisation that you had that would appear to have been quite successful. You were in the right place at the right time when the Australian government started this whole RTO kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, but enabling RTOs to exist. You made a bit of dough, but it also nearly broke you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, that was much later on. That was sort of in the last, I guess, 10 years after I'd sold the translation business. I'd gone travelling for a couple of years and then came home and went, oh, my God, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And I kind of, through naivety, fell into that in probably about 2006.
Mm-hmm. Through naivety. It did okay, didn't it?
That's why I start everything. People say, how did you get into this or that? And I'm like, naivety. It gets me into everything.
I love that. I think people underestimate naivety. And, there's two types of business owners. There's the rational and there's the emotional. I think I'm putting you in the emotional bucket, and maybe you rationalise things later. What do they call that? Post-purchase cognitive dissonance, I think they call that in the marketing circles. But would I be right in saying that you operate off your gut?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do, I kind of, start with something else. Probably like a lot of small business owners, you start thinking you're going down one pathway and then you end up at a very different destination. But it's still good, but it's just different to what you maybe planned on when you started.
Yes. You've had a number of, and I hope you're the one who brought it up with me in the pre-interview, so I hope you don't mind me raising it, but you've had a number of breakdowns, which I think is
definitely.
And thank you for allowing us to talk about that and being so transparent, because I'm sure there are many business owners who don't. What have you done to work your way through that?
Yeah, so I mean, like in my 20s, I had my parents split up when I was in my early 20s, and it just hugely rocked my world. And throughout my 20s, I was kind of looking for an answer to, cope with the stress of running a business and the family breakup and all of that. And that sort of led me into starting yoga and then a little bit later into meditation. And so with my meditation, I've been a fairly, I guess, serious practitioner for daily since about 2003. And kind of like all these little breakdowns, rather than having a kind of major breakdowns, I feel like I have these mini breakdowns, and the meditation is what's helped me cope with that along the way.
Interesting. Much more resilient of mind than you may have been without it.
Oh, look, I mean, that's what meditation is. It's exercise for the mind to keep your mind strong.
Describe your lifestyle now, Brendan.
I don't work in any of the businesses that I'm involved with. I just do the marketing, so that's what I love doing. And the family tends to travel probably. Actually, I was saying to someone just this morning, I'm a bit over travelling. I've been 12 weeks on family holidays this year.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
And I kind of just want to be settled again because it's sort of scratch that itch.
Travelling is a major part of what you guys get up to. It's 3 months of the year and then 9 months sort of, well, you're not running businesses. What are you doing?
Well, look, I still work on, I'm at that point now where I'm working on the business rather than working in the business. So
that's a wonderful place to be, by the way. And you as you would know, how many business owners are in, not on the majority.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organisation in Sydney, EO, and I still see a lot of fellow members that they have everything all in one business or one income stream. And for me, I've always it's probably not the right way of doing it, but I've always, whenever I've made profits in business, I've more or less immediately taken the money out and put it in something else. So a lot of the time it's been property. And so over time, over those 25 years, I've sort of been able to start having different income streams.
How does that impact not reinvesting in the business then?
Well, that's why I'm thinking. I'm not sure if it's such a great thing. Like with the RTO alert force, when that sort of hit really hard times, there was no real capital in the business to weather that storm because it had all been taken out and put it in property, basically. So, and then I guess the other thing is all these businesses, they only get to a certain level. They don't grow and become big there, and that's why I kind of deem them as lifestyle businesses, because anything more than I guess a couple of people are working in them, then that means, I don't know, I would have to get more involved, I guess.
Let's go through the businesses. I'm sure the listeners at this stage are going, can you just tell us what the businesses are? Let's start with Seacliff House, if we could, because that's the one you approached me with originally for an interview, which is quite interesting. What is Seacliff House? How did it come about?
Okay, so Seacliff House now is I guess it's a full-scale wedding venue located on the south coast of New South Wales, about 2 hours south of Sydney, in a place called Gerringong. So we bought it back in 2015 as our family holiday home. And we've had a sort of a long history of renting out our places as furnished accommodation. So we started like way back before Airbnb was even on the planet. And we used to rent out our place and as a furnished accommodation destination for people travelling to Australia. And then we would use the money that we made from that to go travelling ourselves. So when we bought Seacliff, we started renting it out as a furnished holiday home. But it wasn't too long before we started getting inquiries on, could people rent it for weddings?
How did those inquiries come about?
Well, look, it's a pretty special spot. It's located in the middle of dairy country. So we've got about 500 acres of dairy farms around us, and we've got rolling hills and ocean views, and so I don't know, it just sort of happened organically.
So you've bought a holiday house, you rent it out when you're not using it, all of a sudden someone wants to use it as a wedding venue. From what I understand, you now have 50 weddings booked for 2019 and you've done 40 in 2018, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
What experience do you have as a wedding planner organizer? How does this happen?
Well, that's where the naivety comes in. I mean, all these businesses I've been involved with, I've never known anything about them, and that's why I sort of say that it's I'm the accidental wedding venue owner.
Yeah. Well, who was the wedding organizer in Father of the Bride? It was Frank. Yeah. Remember Frank? He was very funny. Frank or Frank, I don't know. So okay, but that's all very well. Like I said, and clearly you're a guy who doesn't really say no. You're more inclined to say yes and then figure it out. So just I'm trying to understand how this happens. You've got so that someone says, I want to have a wedding here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Come and stay. What do? You put a marquee up. Do you get in the caterers? Do you get in the marriage celebrant?
Yes.
Do you get in the 800 chairs? What happens?
So this is what I love so much about this business, and this business has been pivotal in the way that I run my other businesses. So it's a DIY venue, which means that we provide the accommodation, we provide the grounds, like we have landscapers there every week that make it look beautiful. And we've recently sort of invested in some infrastructure. So we've got an old farm shed there that we basically refurbished into this amazing barn that's got the views, etc. So how it happens is that people they have to bring in their own caterer, their own photographer. If they want a marquee, they get, the marquee hire company, that sort of thing. And we have the agent who manages that whole process.
As in the real estate agent?
The real estate agent, that's right.
I love it. So you're really just handing over a venue, and then they do the rest. You're not a caterer. You're not a host. You're not anything other than a venue provider.
Exactly, and we're just what I concentrate on is now that it's been going a few years, I concentrate on managing the marketing side. So I create the leads by doing things like, we've got Instagram, Facebook. We're really focused on getting good reviews. So I focus on that front end of creating a buzz, and then the agency services the inquiries.
Can I just ask, Instagram and Facebook, many businesses we've all got Instagram and Facebook. What are you doing in those two mediums in order to get enough inquiry to have your entire wedding calendar full for next year already?
So that's a strategy that I've used, which I don't, it's fantastic for wedding venues, is that I approach every photographer that does a wedding at Seacliff, and I ask them that, when the time is right, would they consider sharing the photos that they've taken of their clients on the property? And obviously I credit them when they do so.
Do you pay the agent a fair whack? Can you tell us what you pay them?
Yeah, look, I pay them 20%. And now that's sort of come down to 15%, but then I have to pay an hourly rate for extra work, and there's quite a bit of extra work that they need to do on a weekly basis.
Thanks to American Express, we're chatting with lifestyle entrepreneur Brenda Torazzi. Brendan, what's the next one? Byron Bay House? Will we talk about that?
Yeah, so look, that's another kind of a lifestyle thing. So we were up there 3 or 4 years ago, and I was trying to rent a place to stay, and couldn't find anything. Like, the whole place was just jammed. It was like October school holidays or September school holidays, and couldn't find anywhere. And so I sort of looked online and went, I'll just have a look at the property prices. We found this townhouse that was being built a block back from the beach. So, one thing led to another, and we ended up buying it. We spent a lot of time up in Byron because I have family up there. We live up there part of the year, and so that's sort of the sideline of that is we've tapped into the weddings up in Byron, so a lot of people attending weddings rent it. But also Byron has 2 million visitors per annum, so it's just in constant, there's a constant requirement for people to rent, a place in the centre of town.
With these types of businesses, Seacliff and the Byron Bay House, I sort of get that they're lifestyle because the constant rental income that's coming in from them, but I would have thought they're quite onerous from a customer service point of view. Do you also completely outsource all that?
Yeah, so again, I've got an agent that manages all of that, and I do a little bit of marketing for Byron on Instagram, and that's not quite as onerous as the wedding venue. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that getting back to that lifestyle idea, the things with the properties that we've bought, I had this strategy a few years ago whereby if the family can get some kind of use out of it and it makes an income, well, that's a great reason to own it.
Tell me, next business. Next lifestyle business on the Brenda Torazzi portfolio? Shall we talk about OH&S.com.au?
I kind of have this need within me to create stuff. Like, I love that whole startup mentality. So a few years ago, I bought.
What's that need feel like? Just tell us what that need feels like.
I guess it's. I think we all have it as humans. It's like the need to create. The creativity. That's where I get my satisfaction from. Like creating stuff, coming up with ideas that you can turn into something tangible.
It's really interesting. I have that as well. And when it comes time for the rubber to hit the road and to actually implement, that's when my eyes glaze over. Are you a bit like that?
No, I really like making stuff. So my eyes start glazing over once it's operational. Then it's like I can't deal with it. I've got to deal with, when there's staff issues, when there's all that daily grind stuff that I think's a bit boring.
Yes. Yeah, got it. Okay, so ohs.com.au, I think you were going to say you bought that domain a few years ago with the intention of what?
Yeah, so I bought it when Alert Force was like really, really cranking, and I thought, oh, that's a great domain name.
What's Alert Force? That was your RTO?
Yeah, that's the registered training organisation, which is still running. That does health and safety training. So I kind of looked around and thought, what am I going to do next for the next few years? And I had this ohs.com.au, which I've never been able to monetize. So basically,
when you say you have, sorry to interrupt, but you do skirt over things very.
Oh, sorry. Come on, Tim, keep.
Oh, mate, I'm keeping up. I just want to understand a bit more. So when you say you couldn't monetize that domain, had you tried?
Yes, I had tried it a few times and had basically failed every single time. So I tried to, for example, Alert Force was up until the end of 2015, we made most of our income through doing various health and safety legislative requirements that companies had. So we met their compliance requirements. In 2016, we got into a thing called Vet Fee Help and another one called Smart and Skill, which were government-funded programs. So, yeah, I tried to use ohs.com.au to help monetize those government-funded programs, but it didn't work out. So my plan with it now is to turn it into a health and safety training marketplace, and I'm working with the guys down in Melbourne who run Bike Exchange and a number of other online marketplaces. So
the guy, we've had them on the show. We've had who's the fellow who started Marketplacer?
Jason Wyatt.
Jason Wyatt. He's been on the show. So Marketplace is an interesting concept, and for those who don't understand what it is, it's simply creating niche online marketplaces. So they have one for bikes called, I think, Bike Exchange. They have one for outdoor equipment called Outdooria, and it's basically that they sell it white labeled as well, don't they? Which is obviously what you're doing.
Yeah. So I mean that was the thing. I thought, I can try and fumble my way through this, and like I've done with all the other things, or I can team up with a company that's already done it, multiple times before and have been very successful at it. And so I've decided, even though it's a lot more expensive to go down that route, I think it's probably a wise investment.
So what do you do there? Do you work with the guys at Marketplacer who who clip the ticket but set it up in your niche? Yeah,
so look, they've invested, I think, I don't know how many millions of dollars they've invested in their platform, but a lot. So basically they have the platform that will allow you to create a marketplace. So, bringing buyers and sellers together, but I actually have to physically build it, but I'm just utilising their technology to launch that marketplace.
So what are you going to sell on ohs.com.au?
Well, look, the market for training, health and safety training we had a really good run with Alert Force because there was a change in legislation back in 2011, I think, called the Work Health and Safety Act came into place. And around that, there was a lot of new training requirements. But sort of fast forward, 6-7 years, all the competitors have caught up, and there tends to be this mentality where competition is just lowering your prices. So it makes it where we were first with a lot of new products. Now the market is so it's so full, and everybody's lowering prices that it's really hard to make any money. So my idea was I can't innovate on a product side of things, but I can innovate on marketing. So that sort of gave me the idea of making a health and safety training marketplace whereby there was one spot where buyers could come to buy various different types of health and safety training.
Okay. All created by yourself?
Oh, well, the product itself, I'll be just getting all the sellers in the marketplace to list their products on my platform, and then it's a one-stop shop for anyone who needs health and safety training.
I like the point you made about you can't innovate on product, but you can innovate on marketing. I mean, we live in a world of sameness, don't we? There's so much product parity around. Whereas, what is your point of difference? And one of those points of difference is marketing.
Yeah, I mean, and our industry, they tend to be a little bit slow on getting up to speed. So I think there's an opportunity, but I mean, I won't know until I give it a crack.
This show is made possible thanks to American Express Business Explorer Credit Card, a card that lets your business expenses reward you. I asked Amex member Chris Gray, CEO of property buying business Your Empire, how he benefits from using his Amex.
I use Amex for the whole of my business. Literally every single thing I pay in my business, even down to effectively my staff or my contractors and my rent at home, everything goes on the Amex card. Because with Amex, you get the most points for your dollar spent. And I convert those points into frequent flyer rewards points. I fly 10 or 15 times a year, only business and first class, including those beautiful A380 suites you get on Singapore Airlines where you get your own bedroom. And I fly for free. I don't pay for a single flight.
But it's not all upside, or is it?
So I've still got 1 million points because I spend so much money in my business. I've then got a pre-planned 10 trips for next year of where do I want to go. I need to find excuses to go to different countries.
This is a massive first world problem, Chris.
It is, but I'm willing to put up with it. So there's very few people that can force themselves through the pain barrier, but I'm willing to do it. I've trained myself.
New American Express card members who apply and spend $3,000 in the first 3 months from the card approval date receive a bonus 100,000 membership rewards points. You got to love it when your business expenses reward you. Search Amex Business to find out how. New American Express card members only. Offer ends November 30, 2017. Terms and conditions apply. You have had many ideas, Brendan. One which I got a laugh out of when I was reading your bio was the sleep pod business. Tell us about that.
So after I sold the translation business, my wife and I went travelling for a couple of years, and we came back home and I thought, we sort of started another sideline business in fashion, but I won't go into that. That lasted about 18 months. And then we hooked onto this sleep pod idea. I met my business partner at the time, who became a friend, and he said, there's these guys over in New York selling sleep and with these really cool-looking sleep pods, very futuristic-looking. I said to Alex, look, why don't we just jump on a plane and go over and have a chat to them and see if we can, if there's any further opportunity there. And so that's what we did. We naively got the license for Australia and New Zealand, came back home and then sort of made it up as we went along. And so we did. We fumbled for a couple of years. And look, we're really great at achieving publicity. I remember at one point we were doing a promo in Sydney at the ABN AMRO building, which is a very sort of classy corporate building, and we had 3 TV crews fighting over who was going to get the story about the sleep pods. And that was sort of the same experience that these guys in the States had. Like, they were on all the talk shows and on the front page of USA Today, and they had this massive wave of publicity, but it didn't correlate into sales and revenue.
It's really interesting. I'm trying to think of another product that has done that. I'm sure there are many, because there are products that become what I would call media darlings, where you just go, well, as a media person, you just want to share it. You just want to report on it because it's either funny or wacky or kooky or whatever it is, but it's going to sell, it's going to fill space and people are going to want to read it or watch it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily, in fact, it doesn't translate into sales. There's no, just because something's the darling of the media doesn't mean the consumer's going to love it.
Yeah, I mean, and that was kind of like the early ashes of Alert Force, because through that process of, promoting, getting bosses to let their staff sleep on the job through a 20-minute power nap, we met like all the sleep academics in Australia, and one of those academics tipped me onto this idea that truck drivers, there was some legislation coming out that required truck drivers to be educated around managing their sleep and fatigue. And so that was kind of like the pivotal moment where we went, we'll just go and build an online course. And we partnered with a registered training organisation. And within a couple of months, we'd secured about 20% of this new market. And that was kind of like from there, we started going more into training, and we let the sleep pods go.
No doubt. You can't hit a home run all the time.
Well, it was feast and famine. Let me tell you, it was pretty tough.
How tough?
Well, it probably took, like, having sort of started a number of small businesses. My view is that it takes between 5 and 6 years to break out of wages, and what I mean by that is that you need about 5 or 6 years before you're making anything more than just a wage. Once you get past that, and if it works and the business is still alive, then you can start making, profits that you can do something with.
When someone meets you at a barbecue or at a networking event, they say, "Hey, Brendan, what do you do?" What's your answer?
Yeah. Well, I normally lead with the weddings because that's a bit more interesting than the health and safety training. But I'm getting more enthusiasm for the marketplace and that sort of thing.
You're in an ideal opportunity. I've talked about this on a show many moons ago, where the pitching approach of, if someone says, "What do you do?" you could say, "Before I tell you what I do you mind if I ask what you do?" So then they tell you what they do, and you can position yourself accordingly. So that might be an RTO conversation. It might be a wedding conversation. It might be, you look like you need a holiday conversation. I've got a house in Byron. Could do it.
I like that. I'm gonna nick that.
My
idea.
pleasure.
Thank
The
you.
invoice will be in the mail, and it'll have 5 zeros on it.
Yeah.
So, Brendan, back to I was going to say naivety. I don't think this is naive at all. It's a bit woo-woo, but I know that you have some kind of Indian astrologer type person that guides you.
Yeah, so look, it's all sort of wrapped into the yoga and meditation, and probably about 8 years ago, I kind of felt like, on a personal level, that I had this ceiling on how much I could grow a business, and at the time it was $1 million. And so I started seeing this sort of, he's an Australian guy, but he's got an Indian name, and he's like this performance coach that works with Vedic astrology, which is Indian astrology, to help you work through personal issues, etc. And so he was really helpful as one of my advisors to help me break through those ceilings that I had on how much I could grow the business. So he's sort of him, and then the guy who trained him, who I now speak with every 6 months or so. They sort of forewarned me of this challenging time I was going to have in 2016, 2017. So it was a breakdown that I kind of prepared for.
Oh, they actually foresaw you having a breakdown 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, they just said you're going to have a hell of a lot of challenges coming up, and it was, knowing that it was coming and having the meditation, and it helped me deal with it. It was still incredibly difficult. Like, I think we had about 8 government audits in the space of 18 months.
That's stressful.
The business partnership that I'd been in for 10 years, that my business partner basically walked,
right,
and I bought him out. So it was like every day I was going to work and another bomb would go off. I was kind of joking about it. What's going to happen tomorrow? And something would, typically. So.
Is your wife? She must be very accommodating, or is she as naive as you are?
Oh, look, I think she worries about me sometimes, because it's a bit of it can be a bit of, like, I kind of just roll with the roller coaster. But yeah, she's definitely a bit more conservative than I am.
Well, you probably need to be. And it's probably nice to have a bit of yin and yang. I mean, two Brendans might be a little bit too much.
Oh, no,
really.
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
Tell me, many business owners and entrepreneurs we've all got ideas. I get approached by many who want to share them with me and ask what I think, but they don't want to take it any further through fear of, someone's going to copy them or someone will be first to market. What's your view on that?
Oh, look, I think if you don't actually take a step forward and have a crack, like I think I fail 99% of the time, maybe higher than that. But I don't mind. Like, I don't mind failing and going, because you still learn. When you fail, you actually learn. So,
well, you can't exactly go to your bank manager and say, "Hey, listen, my Indian fortune teller says this. So
yeah.
Can we just bring that money forward?"
Yeah. Exactly.
What do you reckon? Yeah, probably not going to fly. What's been your favourite business?
Look, I think Alert Force we had an amazing ride with that, and also the weddings. I mean, it's such a great business to be involved with, because you see people at the start of their journey, and the customers are generally really happy, and it's a nice thing to be involved with in some small part. If people have a happy day on their wedding and go on and have a great life together, it's nice to be part of that.
Brendan, it's been an interesting chat, mate. A very diverse chat. We've covered a lot of different businesses and industries, a bit of woo-woo thrown in. If people wanted to find you, this will be interesting. Where do they go?
Well, probably go to seacliffhouse.com.au, or you could contact me through OH&S.com.au or alertforce.com.au.
I love it. Or maybe it might be time to get BrendanTorazzi.com.au if you don't already have it.
Look, I've got no room for another startup, Timbo.
That's not a startup. That's just a place to find you. Goodness me. Hey, Brendan, thanks for sharing, buddy.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, there you go, team. Lifestyle entrepreneur Brenda Torazzi. How do you feel after listening to that? Are you frustrated that your business is owning you? Are you more like Brendan? Do you have a lifestyle business? Has your mind been opened? You know what they say, the mind once opened never goes back to its original dimensions. Or the mind once expanded, I think, never goes back to its original dimensions. Hey, be sure to hang around after my top 3 attention grabbers as US listener Bob Wheeler shares his marketing secrets in the Monster Prize draw. But first, my top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Brendan, thanks to our great friends at American Express. Attention grabber number 1, I do love Brendan's willingness to be openly naive. Now, should I encourage naivety in business? Yeah, why not? Sometimes we just got to have a crack. If it feels right, do it. Sorry to all you rational business owners out there. Attention grabber number 2, I agree that you can't always innovate on product, but you can always innovate on marketing. I talked about it during the interview. Marketing is a great point of difference, whether you focus on better customer service, a better customer experience. Maybe it's the 21-step customer manifesto that Josh Nichols, last week's guest, has put together. That is a great way of innovating around your business and creating a very hard to find these days, thanks to product and service parity, point of difference. And attention grabber number 3, Brendan's failed 99% of the time. Was he serious? That's a lot, isn't it? But it's quite reassuring. I'm touring the country with Shark Andrew Banks from Shark Tank, doing an American Express roadshow, and he also talks about failing a lot more times than he's succeeded. So if you are doing it hard, if things aren't going to plan, take a little comfort in the high fail rates of successful people. That's what grabbed my attention. I'd love you to share what grabbed yours. I know most of you don't. That's okay. But if you want to, just this once, head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/434.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh yes, indeedly doodly. It is time to reward a listener who has taken swift marketing action as a result of this show. Someone who has written into me, it could be you, told me an idea they've implemented from this show, and what impact it's had on their business. If you do that and I read it on air, you win a prize. Today's winner is Robert Wheeler from the Rapid Recovery Room. Now, I reckon Robert has been mentioned twice in the last 2 weeks, including this one. He sent me a great note last week or the week before about an experience he had with Design Crowd, and now he's sharing his marketing intellectualness, if I may. He says, "Hey Tim." "Hey Rob. First, I'd like to thank you for helping us to take our marketing to new heights. You're welcome, Robert. That's why I'm here. I'd say next level, but that would be an understatement. We're several steps up the ladder from where we began, almost entirely thanks to your podcast." Well, that's very nice, Robert, but I'm guessing you're a bit of an implementer, a bit of an action taker, so to speak. Secondly, I want to share a thought with you about what has worked from listening to your show and something I've realised that I don't believe has been said. Here we go. We've made 10 calls for 10 straight days. We've made sure to add useful content to our webpage and Facebook and focused on helping and educating as opposed to simply selling. So many boxes ticked there already, Rob. Well done. We've made sure our emails are entertaining and informative. We ask for the action. Yeah, got to have a call to action. What do you want people to do next? Back to Robert. We've delegated things like video editing for the posh spots, and we've done more candid live interviews to increase our audience. We even take a minute to focus on just our breathing when things get stressful. We've used more tips that we can list, but that's plenty. Oh, I love it already. I love the mix, Robert, of marketing tactics and a little bit of kind of meditation, a little bit of breathing, not unlike our guest today also does. There must be something in that. Back to Robert. He says, all of the things we've done from your show have led me to realise something based on a comment you made in an early episode. You said you have to have a passion for your business and marketing it. That said, it occurred to me that all of your guests, and you, Timbo, share one thing in common: persistently and passionately following a marketing program. I think all of your guests have a marketing plan and they pursue it fervently, like that word, and are committed to it. Doing a little of this and a little of that occasionally is probably a waste of time, says Robert. Being committed to marketing means constantly focusing on it, whatever you're doing. Totally agree, Robert. Having a plan is good. Executing is even better. Just getting stuff done. Marketing that precious, precious business of yours. Robert goes on to say, for us, that starts with your show. I listen every single week. Thank you. Whether I think the topic will help me or not, because it's part of my program. Great to hear that. I reckon some of you look at the topic, look at the headline of the show and go, oh, that's not for me. That's a lifestyle entrepreneur. That guy's not for me. No. You know, I can only highlight one thing in the headline, but we cover so many different topics within each episode, as you probably well know. Robert goes on to say, I've committed to marketing our business passionately and persistently, and I have a plan and a program that I follow, the foundation of which is the Small Business Big Marketing Show. We half-assed trying this and that before your show. Without it, the rest would never have happened, and we'd have nothing from which to build our marketing. You're changing businesses and lives for the better, Tim, across the globe. Keep up the great work, my unmet but genuinely considered friend. Sincerely, Bob Wheeler, rapidrecoveryroom.com. That's a really lovely thing to say at the end, Robert. I certainly consider my listeners as friends, most of whom I've not met, but I feel a strong relationship is what I love about podcasting. Hey, Rob, Bob, Robbie, Wobbit, whatever we call you, thank you, buddy. I'm going to promote your business on this show, which I've done as a prize. Because you're in the States, I've got nothing to send you. But I can also give you a backlink on the smallbusinessbigmarketing.com website. That'll make 2 for you because you got one last week. And that is valued at priceless. Hey, love to hear from everyone else. If there is a marketing idea you've learned from the show, email me, tim@timreid.com.au. Righto, it's time for the advertising jingle of the week. This one is from 1971 and it is so sugary sweet. It's doing my head in already, both in what it's selling and how it's delivered. Visually, it's a bunch of healthy-looking 20-somethings of varying nationalities singing outside in sort of a choir formation as they look out to the distant horizon. Here's the first 14 seconds.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves.
So right now, it could be for a real estate agent, a garden nursery, maybe even a furniture shop. But let's keep listening.
I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. I like to buy the world a Coke and keep it.
Buy the world a what? A Coke? Did they say a Coke? Yeah, they did. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
Buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing.
Enough. Look, I love a good jingle. I love a TV ad that's got a massive budget, which I'm pretty sure this one did. But really, selling brown sugared water like that is incredible. If you want to watch the full ad, I would encourage you to. It's a bit of a laugh. smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/434 is where you'll find it. Hey, and if you've got a jingle you'd like me to play from years gone by, or maybe you've got a jingle for your own business, just send me a little note on Twitter at Timbo Reid, R-E-I-D. Well, that almost wraps up another episode of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing Show, sponsored by our great friends at American Express. You can now search Amex Business to find out how your business expenses can reward you, can have you travelling on a well-deserved break, maybe at the pointy end of the plane. Hey, got some great interviews coming up, including one on mental health for small business owners. Not a marketing chat, but a chat that I think is very important. I've got a chat with a very disruptive butcher. That's a marketing chat. Plus a fellow who's selling merch for small businesses through vending machines at Officeworks. How clever is that? Hey, don't forget there's an entire back catalogue as well of interviews, like 433 of them, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. If you love the show, and why wouldn't you, then let another business owner know about it by grabbing their phone and downloading it for them. Exactly. Open the podcast app, search Small Business Big Marketing, hit subscribe, hit play, give them their phone back, move on to the next one. Until next week, I am Timbo Reid. Always have been, always will be. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.